call the local planning agency meeting of April 6, 2020 to order. There's a lot of background noise. And I'm going to request the clerk to call the roll.
Mayor Weissman,
Here.
Vice Mayor Narodsky,
Here.
Commissioner Landman,
Here.
Commissioner Dr. Marks,
Here.
Commissioner Mizrahi,
Here.
Commissioner Shelley,
Here.
Commissioner Weinberg,
Here.
Mr. Wasson,
Here.
and Mr. Wolfen.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you so much. As we all know, these are extraordinary times. This meeting shall be held in accordance with the Governor's Executive Order 2020-69 because of COVID-19 and the need to ensure the public health, safety, and welfare. This meeting is being conducted remotely via Zoom. Due to the ongoing state of emergency and the recommendations from all public health authorities, the City of Aventura recommends that all persons view and participate in the meeting through electronic means. Members of the public have been directed on how to access the meeting through the agendas posted online and at Government Center. Members of the public will be allowed to provide comments via audio when the item is open to public comment. The city clerk will provide directions on how to raise your hand to talk when the item is open for public comment. Okay, with that said, I'm just going to ask that all of us in unison say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag
of the United
United States
States of America,
to the republic
republic for which it stands,
States,
one nation,
Under
under
God,
God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
with liberty and justice for all.
justice for all.
Can I please have a motion for approval of the minutes of April 2nd, 2019, made by Commissioner Weinberg, seconded by Commissioner Shelley? Okay, I'm going to ask the clerk for a roll call vote.
Commissioner Landman,
Yes.
Commissioner Dr. Marks,
Yes.
Commissioner Mizrahi,
Yes.
Commissioner Shelley,
Yes.
Commissioner Weinberg,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Narodsky,
Yes.
and Mayor Weissman.
Yes.
Motion passes.
We move into item number 4, which is public hearing, motion recommending adoption of the following ordinance. I'm going to ask the city attorney to read the ordinance that is being considered.
Thank you, Mayor. An ordinance of the City of Aventura, Florida, amending Chapter 4, alcoholic beverages of the city's Code of Ordinances by amending Section 4.2, location of establishments, to clarify applicability and to revise exceptions, amending Chapter 31, land development regulations by amending Section 31-171, off-street parking, loading, and delivery standards to add regulations for electric vehicle charging stations and spaces, amending Chapter 31, land development regulations by amending Sections 31-143, residential zoning districts, Section 31-144, business zoning districts, and Section 31-145, town center zoning districts, to clarify applicability of conditional uses, amending Chapter 31, land development regulations by amending Section 31-21, definitions, to clarify definition of accessory use, amending Chapter 31, land development regulations by amending Section 31-191, sign regulations generally, by amending Section 31-191F, to revise and add prohibited signs, by amending Section 31-191J, to add wall signs for assisted living facilities, amending Chapter 31, land development regulations by amending Section 31-221, landscaping requirements, to add a definition and regulation for the use of artificial turf, amending Chapter 31, land development regulations by amending Section 31-147, community facilities districts, Section 31-148, recreation open space district, and Section 31-149 Utilities District to revise permitted size of above-ground fuel storage tanks for emergency generators, providing for severability, providing for inclusion in the code, and providing for an effective date.
Can I please have a motion recommending adoption of the ordinance? Motion made by Commissioner Shelley, seconded by Commissioner Misrati. I'm going to request that Community Development Director Joanne Carr to present the staff report to us.
Thank you, Mayor. Staff requests that the local planning agency recommend approval of amendments to the land development regulations to the City Commission. The proposed amendments are recommended for consistency with recent changes in legislation, for clarification of code provisions, for facilitation of development review, and to provide regulation for new technology. The first amendment is 3 changes to Chapter 4, the alcoholic beverage section of the code. The first change is a cleanup to include all zoning districts that allow restaurant use in the existing exemption to the distance and spacing for restaurants. The second change is to reduce the square footage and number of seats required for existing cocktail lounge bar exemption from 4,000 to 2,500 indoor square feet and from 200 to 150 indoor seats to mirror the square footage and number of seats in the state legislation. The third change is to clarify that the exemption for cocktail lounges and bars applies only when they are accessory to a restaurant, that they have the same hours at the restaurant, and that meals are available at the lounge bar area, but also to clarify that this does not preclude service of an alcoholic beverage only without food, as long as the restaurant complies with the food beverage revenue percentages required by the state license. The second amendment is to the parking standards of Chapter 31 to provide regulation for electric vehicle charging station. The proposed text encourages but does not require charging stations. It allows charging station spaces to be counted towards the number of required parking spaces, similar to handicap or stroller spaces are now. Level 3, the fast charging stations and their associated switchgear cabinets and transformers are to be located in an area not visible to the public right-of-way or enclosed and screened from view. They are permitted in parking garages and on surface parking lots with 100 or more spaces. The maximum number of level 3 charging spaces cannot exceed 10% of the maximum of required parking spaces, and 50% of that 10% may be designated for sole use by one manufacturer's electric vehicle. The signs need to be signed as an electric vehicle parking space and show all safety and manufacturer contact information. Regular parking spaces that comply with the city code may be converted to electric vehicle parking spaces, and spaces that do not comply with city code may also be converted, but those spaces do have to be brought into code compliance. There is a provision for administrative waiver where it is impossible or impractical to bring those non-conforming parking spaces into compliance with either the size or width of perimeter or interior landscape buffers. The third amendment is to clarify that the code language permitting uses in one zone as a permitted use in another zone does not include conditional uses. For example, in the B2 Community Business Zoning District, all permitted uses in the B1 Neighborhood Business District are allowed. This language does not extend to mean conditional uses. Each zoning district that allows permitted uses from another zone has been amended to clearly state this intent. The fourth amendment is to the definition of accessory use to clarify that it is exclusively for the use of the principal building to which it is attached. The accessory use cannot have a separate sign or be advertised for use by the general public. And that one's a clarification. The fifth amendment is 3 changes to the sign code. The first change to the sign code is to allow wall signs for assisted living facilities. Those are considered non-residential use by our code. And since the sign code allows wall signs in other non-commercial buildings, retail, office, hotels, staff is recommending that wall signs also be permitted on assisted living facilities. The proposed signs are the same size and number as allowed for office and hotel buildings. The second change to the sign code is to set a maximum illumination level for all signs. Most signs are now being made with the LED lighting for energy and cost efficiency, but those are much brighter than the standard neon light that we have had in the past. Staff is recommending 4,000 lumens be our maximum level of illumination. The third change to the sign code is to exempt LED changeable copy panels on billboards that have received variance approval from the City Commission. Changeable copy signs are currently prohibited by the code except for schools, religious facilities, and public institutions. So that proposed change will add the LED copy panels on billboards as one of those exemptions. The Sixth Amendment is to the landscape code to allow artificial turf to be used as a playing surface for private and public sports, recreation fields, roadway medians in areas of flooding and drainage concern, playgrounds, rooftop or above ground terraces and pool decks. The turf is to be certified by manufacturers as permeable, bacteria and heat resistant, and made with a non-toxic backing. A turf base, including sand, is encouraged to support some soil habitat and increase drainage. The seventh is a cleanup to the regulations to include the recreation open space and utilities district and community facilities district, the regulations for above ground storage tanks, similar to the regulations in the other districts that are currently permitted. And I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thanks. Thank you very much. And I'm going to ask if any members of the commission have any questions or comments. Commissioner Shelley.
Yeah, Joanne, in the parking issue where we have the electronic vehicles going in there and the charging stations, if it could affect the width of the space, which it might, because some of the spaces might be older, what happens if it reduces the required number of spaces that that building would then have by having to have these spaces put in? Will there be a variance made to the amount of spaces needed?
The proposed amendment tonight has an administrative waiver just for the width of the landscape buffer, not for the width of the space or the number of spaces. Based on the experience that we've had in discussions with the electric vehicle manufacturers. So if they did have to lose a space, they would have to find it another place, or it would be a parking variance.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Mayor,
Ms. Rahi.
Joanne, with this amendment, what happens with the signage that's already on certain buildings that go over the luminance?
If they're already in place, they're allowed to stay. If they're changed or repaired, they would have to come into compliance.
Got it. Thanks.
Are there any other questions? Commissioner Narodsky.
No, I was just giving my approval.
Okay, as no commissioners want to speak, I'm going to open the item for public comment and request the city clerk to review the procedures for members of the public that want to comment.
Thank you, Mayor. Members of the public wishing to comment on this item, please click or touch the ... more option, typically located on the right hand of your screen, and select the icon to raise your hand. If you are calling from a phone, please press *9 to raise your hand. I will unmute the microphone for each speaker to individually provide comments until there are no more speakers. When your microphone is unmuted, please state your name and address for the record. You will have 3 minutes to provide comments. I'll give everybody a couple of minutes to see if they want to raise their hands.
Sorry.
Okay, Mayor, I do not see any members of the public wishing to comment on this item.
Okay, then I'm going to close the item for public comment, and I'm going to ask the clerk for a roll call vote.
Commissioner Landman,
Yes.
Commissioner Dr. Marks,
Yes.
Commissioner Mizrahi,
Yes.
Commissioner Shelley,
Yes.
Commissioner Weinberg,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Narodsky, and Mayor Weissman.
Yes.
The motion passes.
I will now ask for a motion to adjourn the Aventura Local Planning Agency meeting. Made by Commissioner Landman, seconded by Commissioner Weinberg. This meeting is adjourned. I will now directly go into the City Commission meeting of April 6th, 2020. I'm going to ask the clerk for roll call
Mayor Weissman,
here.
Vice Mayor Narodsky,
Here.
Commissioner Landman,
Here.
Commissioner Dr. Marks,
Here.
Commissioner Mizrahi,
Here.
Commissioner Shelley,
Here.
Commissioner Weinberg,
Still on my balcony.
Mr. Watson,
Here.
and Mr. Wilson.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you so much. This meeting shall be held in accordance with the Governor's Executive Order 2020-69 because of COVID-19 and the need to ensure the public health, safety, and welfare. This meeting is being conducted remotely via Zoom. Due to the ongoing state of emergency and the recommendations from all public health authorities, the City of Aventura recommends that all persons view and participate in the meeting through electronic means. Members of the public have been directed on how to access the meeting through the agendas posted online and at the Government Center. Members of the public will be allowed to provide comments via audio when the item is open to public comment. The city clerk will provide directions on how to raise your hand when the item is open for public comment. I'm going to waive the Pledge of Allegiance since we just said it, and I'm going to ask the city manager if we have any emergency deletions or emergency additions.
No, Mayor, not at this time.
Excuse me. I believe that I'm going to, I was going to ask for an addition to an emergency addition.
Okay, you're recognized.
I would like to ask if we could add one item to the agenda, and that would be mental health hotline for the City of Aventura.
Mr. Attorney?
Yes, if the majority agrees, that may be added, Mayor.
Okay, so then do I need a motion for the vote?
Yes, motion,
Could Commissioner Marks explain what she means by it to us?
yes, certainly, Mayor.
Okay, Commissioner, would you tell us the intent of your item?
Yes, given the current circumstances which are escalating right now, there is a general, between people losing their jobs and people being afraid and the death toll increasing and on and on and on. And there is, I believe, a need for our city to offer an opportunity for people who are experiencing anxiety, concern, any kind of mental health issues, to be able to call in to a hotline that we would establish so that we could provide assistance to our residents. I did have an opportunity to speak to our attorney today about this matter, and he did explain that this was certainly within keeping of what a city would do. And I did speak to our city manager, and it's also something that he feels can be undertaken. And I think that just given the seriousness right now and what people are going through, that at a minimum, we should at least discuss the opportunity to offer something like this to our residents.
Okay, do any commissioners have questions? Commissioner Shelley?
Yeah, I'd like to comment on it because it's a good idea. However, we looked into it for the Williams Island because we have 5,000 residents here. And we spoke to our attorneys, and the problem we found with it is, number one, who would be the person responding to that hotline? Who would the doctor be? What qualifications? And it created some possible liability if the wrong advice as such wasn't given, unless it's to a very highly qualified individual that's answering these calls. So I'm not an attorney, but we were advised against it only because, unfortunately, we couldn't, we had no idea of knowing who the right person would be to hire for this type of job. And I don't think we're equipped at this point. I know when they had these school issues, they get specialists to come in for the schools, but these are very highly qualified people. Before I could approve something like this, I would have to know who the individual is, the qualifications, the credentials. Otherwise, I think we could be opening ourselves up for a possible liability issue.
Well, right now, Bob.
Dr. Marks, 1 second. I have other questions. Remember, we all agreed we're raising our hands.
Okay.
Commissioner Mizrahi.
Well, I had the same thought as Commissioner Shelley. We would need to hire somebody special just for this, with the highest qualifications, just to answer these calls. Because there is a hotline specialized for mental health and for mental support, which is handled by the county, and another one handled by the state. So I don't know if we can do a triple, like a bypass. They call our city and we can send them there. But this has to be set up with the special people.
Okay, thank you. The city attorney would like to say something, then Dr. Linda Marks.
Thank you, Mayor. My understanding of this would just be an item that, if it's added to the agenda, would allow the city manager to look into the feasibility
Exactly.
of establishing this.
Exactly.
You're not being asked to approve this tonight.
Correct.
At this point, you're just being asked to add this to the agenda. Let's say, for example, at the end of the consent agenda. If you do add it, then you could decide whether to authorize the manager to look into the feasibility of this.
Okay, Dr. Marks.
Yes, all I was asking right now is to add it to the agenda. I've done a little bit of work this afternoon on this, and David and I have much more that we could talk about. All I was really asking right now is to add it to the agenda for discussion and then present some facts.
Commissioner Landman.
Very good points from everybody. I'm very willing to look into it, and if it is feasible, if it's a service that we could provide, obviously looking at all the pros and cons, I'm open to it and support looking at it.
Okay, so this is not a workshop, it's a commission meeting. What I am understanding is that you're asking for the city manager to look into the feasibility of providing a telephone-in hotline to deal with certain circumstances that will be defined by the city manager and brought back.
That is correct, including the legal ramifications, although the attorney has advised that this is something we can absolutely do. And there again,
bring back to us by a date certain?
Yes, I would have to.
Okay, so I don't believe that this is a roll call vote, so give me your thumbs up or thumbs down. Okay, it looks like it's unanimously passed for our city manager to look into it and get back to us.
Okay.
Thank you, Dr. Marks.
thank you, Mayor.
Okay, there are no special presentations tonight. And the next item on our agenda is the consent agenda. Do any members of the commission, would you like to remove would any member of the commission like to remove any item on the consent agenda? Okay, then I'd like a motion for the approval of the consent agenda. Made by Commissioner Shelley, seconded by Commissioner Mizrahi. I'm going to ask the clerk for a roll call vote.
Landman,
Yes.
Commissioner Dr. Marks,
Yes.
Commissioner Mizrahi,
Yes.
Shelley, Commissioner Shelley,
Yes.
Commissioner Weinberg,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Naraki,
Yes.
and Mayor Meister.
Yes.
The motion passes.
Okay. It brings us to item number 6, but City Clerk, there is a lot of shuffling and background noise. I don't know what you can do about it.
I think it sounds like it's when whoever's outside.
Yeah, it's the exterior, the wind blowing on the outside.
Oh, got it. Okay. This brings us to our quasi judicial public hearings. We have none. So it brings us to number 7. Ordinances for first reading. I'm going to ask the city attorney to read the ordinance.
Thank you, Mayor. For this item, the staff report from the LPA, Local Planning Agency, is incorporated into the record. This is first reading of an ordinance of the City of Aventura, Florida, amending Chapter 4, alcoholic beverages of the city's Code of Ordinances by amending Section 4.2, location of establishments, to clarify applicability and to revise exceptions, amending Chapter 31, land development regulations by amending Section 31-171, off-street parking, loading, and driveway standards to add regulations for electric vehicle charging stations and spaces, amending Chapter 31, land development regulations by amending Sections 31-143, residential zoning districts, Section 31-144, business zoning districts, and Section 31-145, town center zoning district, to clarify applicability of conditional uses, amending Chapter 31, land development regulations by amending Section 31-21, definitions, to clarify definition of accessory use, amending Chapter 31, land development regulations by amending Section 31-191, sign regulations, generally by amending Section 31-191F to revise and add prohibited signs, by amending Section 31-191J to add wall signs for assisted living facilities, amending Chapter 31, land development regulations by amending Section 31-221, landscape requirements, to add a definition and regulation for use of artificial turf, amending Chapter 31, land development regulations by amending Section 31-147, Community Facilities District, Section 31-148, Recreation Open Space District, Section 31-149, Utilities District, to revise permitted size of above-ground fuel storage tanks for emergency generators, providing for severability, providing for inclusion in the code, and providing for an effective date.
Thank you. Can I ask for a motion for approval of the ordinance? Motion made by Commissioner Dr. Linda Marks. Can I have a second, please? Second made by Commissioner Landman. I'm going to ask if any member of the commission has any additional questions or comments. Seeing as there are none, I'm going to open the item for any additional public comment, and I will request the city clerk to review the procedures for members of the public to provide comments.
Thank you, Mayor. Members of the public wishing to comment on this item, please click or touch the ... indicating more option, typically located on the right hand of your screen, and select the icon to raise your hand. If you are calling from a phone, please press *9 to raise your hand. I will unmute the microphone for each speaker to individually provide comments until there are no more speakers. When your microphone is unmuted, please state your name and address for the record. You will have 3 minutes to provide comments. I'm going to give everybody a couple of minutes to see if we have any comments. Okay, Mayor, I do not see any members of the public wishing to comment on this item.
Then I'm going to close the item for public comment, and I'm going to ask the clerk for a roll call vote.
Commissioner Landman,
Yes.
Commissioner Dr. Marks,
Yes.
Commissioner Mizrahi,
Yes.
Commissioner Shelley,
Yes.
Commissioner Weinberg,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Narodsky, and Mayor Weissman.
Yes,
The motion passes on first reading.
thank you. Brings us to item number 8, ordinances, and this is second reading, and I'm going to request the city attorney to read the ordinance.
Thank you, Mayor. An ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Aventura, Florida, amending ordinance number 2019-14, which ordinance adopted a budget for the 2019-2020 fiscal year by revising the 2019-2020 fiscal year operating and capital budget as outlined in Exhibit A attached here to, authorizing the city manager to do all things necessary to carry out the aims of this ordinance and providing for an effective date.
Can I please have a motion for approval of this ordinance? Made by Commissioner Shelley. Can I please have a second? Made by Vice Mayor Narodsky. I'm going to ask if any members of the commission have any questions or comments. Seeing as there are none, I'm going to open the item for public comment and request the city clerk to review the procedures for members of the public wishing to provide comments.
Thank you, Mayor. Members of the public wishing to comment on this item, please click or touch the ... indicating more option typically located on the right hand of your screen and select the icon to raise your hand. If you are calling from a phone, please press *9 to raise your hand. I will unmute the microphone for each speaker to individually provide comments until there are no more speakers. When your microphone is unmuted, please state your name and address for the record. You will have 3 minutes to provide comments. I'll give everybody a couple of minutes to see if we have any comments.
Mayor?
Yes, Commissioner Weinberg.
Hi, I moved inside just in case that was causing noise, but I'm still hearing ambient noise, and I'm just wondering, can't we all be on mute until you recognize each of us, and then we unmute the speaker only?
That's what I thought we were doing.
Apparently, though, if we can't, I don't know. Let me ask.
Alyssa?
If you want them all muted, we can mute everybody.
I don't
That
know.
way,
It seems to be without the noise, without the other noise, it seems to be okay.
okay, because I'm hearing voices. I don't know whose they are, but I'm hearing voices other than yours. Now I don't.
All right, Mayor, there are no members of the public wishing to comment on this item.
Okay, then I'm going to close the item for public comment, and I'm going to ask the clerk for a roll call vote.
Commissioner Landman,
Yes.
Commissioner Dr. Marks,
Yes.
Commissioner Mizrahi,
Yes.
Commissioner Shelley,
Yes.
Commissioner Weinberg,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Narodsky,
Yes.
and Mayor Weissman.
Yes,
Motion passes on second and final reading.
thank you. The next item of business are reports, and I'm going to ask if any commissioner has any report that they want to speak to. Please raise your hand. Commissioner Weinberg.
Hi, due to the circumstances, we've been having weekly Zoom meetings with the League of Cities, and every city gives a report on what they're doing. We try to learn best practices, maybe get a good idea. And also, it's nice to hear that we've been ahead of the curve from the beginning. And the mayor was on the last call also, and we've been doing it 9 a.m. on Tuesday mornings, and I'm just putting it out there. If I don't think there's anything improper about if any other elected official wants to be on those calls. The city attorney will tell me if I'm wrong. I can provide the Zoom info if anyone wants to be on those calls. Yes.
Mr. Attorney.
Mayor, if there is going to be more than one member of the commission participating in those calls, they would have to be properly posted and public Zoom access would have to be provided. So I would request that only the mayor or one commissioner of the mayor's choosing attend those calls.
Commissioner Weinberg. Just
Yes.
remind me, other cities had 2 or 3 people from their commission participating, correct?
Yes, absolutely.
And I'm not sure, Mr. Walpen, if the league's advertising of this event meets your qualifications for us to be able to participate.
Does the league allow people to call in and hear the discussion?
These are replacing the normal monthly board meetings that the league has, and at those meetings, most cities have 2 or 3 representatives, or a lot of cities, I should say.
Right,
And
but
so
it's,
this replaces those. I do not
Yeah.
believe members of the public are invited to attend.
now then I would recommend you do not have more than one mayor or commissioner attending.
Okay, anyone else have a comment on it?
Oh, on that,
Commissioner Mizrahi.
but not on the League of Cities, on something else.
Okay, well, right now I'm on the League of Cities. Give me 1 second. Anyone else on League of Cities? Okay. I guess Commissioner Weinberg, we have our answer. Commissioner Mizrahi.
Yeah, I just wanted to address that there has been a lot of public comment regarding the Don Sofer Trail, that it has been really packed. And I know that we have, I talked to the city manager, we have a policeman going around and spacing everyone. But I just want to put it out there that we have 3.2 square miles in the city, and this is common sense. That people can really walk on other streets and everything. And if they see it, that it's a little too full, just go there, because I know that we talked about closing it, but it will create that the people will walk on the street and it will be much more dangerous. So thank you, Ron, for putting the police. I know that the chief is on the call. Thank you, chief. I've seen the car going around, and I hope that people, each one takes their own space. It's really a common sense and thinking about what they're doing.
Thank you. Okay, I have one suggestion on that comment, and that's that we mark with tape or paint or something 6 feet along the Sofer Trail. So just like we're asking supermarkets to mark the 6 feet, so people will have an idea, and that will be a visual reminder to them to stay 6 feet apart. I also think that our electronic sign, which thank you so much, City Manager, for changing, can be changed to remind them to wear masks and social distancing when they enter the Sofer Trail. But I think that if we put some markings out, it would make a big difference.
I'd be happy to do that. And it's definitely a work in progress, as you know.
Yes, it is. Any commissioners? Commissioner Landman.
I just want to say thank you to our city manager, Ron. I felt like these few weeks, every time I saw something or, I was like the police, over here calling to report something, but, he was always very, positive. I'll get right on it. And obviously, we're reporting things that we see to protect our citizens. If you see a supermarket that's not abiding by the guidelines, it's not, we want to call you out on it, but we want to protect our residents. So anytime that I saw something, no matter what day of the week, I reached out to him. So I do appreciate always taking my calls and my requests graciously. So I appreciate that. And I know it's a work in progress, and I'm sure we're all calling and texting when we see things just to protect all of our residents.
Thank you.
Commissioner Weinberg.
Thanks. I actually, the last 3 days, I drove around the exercise, the Don Sofer Circle, and I saw 6 feet of spacing for the most part, unless they were a family unit or what appeared to be a family, people who are going to be together anyway. They were in their condos. But I think it's an enforcement issue. Obviously, we've got to put it's labor intensive. We're going to have police officers keeping people separated. Obviously, if somebody's walking and somebody behind them is running, they're going to end up passing them. they need to, they need to be as wide a berth as possible. But it's an enforcement thing so that we won't be forced to close it, because I think it is an outlet, that people really need. But when people see violations, they get really angry, understandably, and it's frustrating. So it's really a matter of enforcement. The other thing is, and this is just a really strange thing that occurred to me, but my frustration, my little OCD is every single person in the world, when they go to Walgreens, they punch their phone number in on the keypad. And everyone does it, and then the next person does it. You could be 6 feet away, then you step up, and then you're pushing the exact buttons that the person in front of you just pushed. And if we can get them, at least the Walgreens in our city, punch in those numbers for customers, I now make them do it. I say, you do it. But otherwise, all you're doing is touching whatever the person in front of you just touched. So it defeats the entire purpose of the space.
City manager,
Yes, ma'am.
can you,
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I'm writing that down.
okay. Commissioner Dr. Marks and then Commissioner Mizrahi.
I have two questions, one related to the Sofer Trail and then one not related to the Sofer Trail. And thank you, Howard. You're absolutely right about Walgreens. It makes no sense to go up and have to touch that nasty little box thing there. So thank you. Regarding the Sofer Trail, I'm not understanding, Mayor, what would it look like to put, I don't understand how you're going to put tape down for 6 feet apart, because doesn't it depend where you start on the trail? I mean, what is that going to look like?
Well, I would leave
Commissioner?
that up to the experts, but actually the same thing you see in a grocery line. It would be 6 feet going across and another 6 feet and another 6 feet.
Commissioner,
Sometimes
the mayor, you know what I do? I have an idea where you could put the 6 feet spacing, throughout the trail, not everywhere, but sporadically, just to, just to give you an idea. That's what 6 feet looks like.
on our
That
front
makes
points
sense.
near 34th where the traffic lights are, where people tend to bunch up.
Thank you. Thank you. That makes sense. And then here's my other question on, and actually it's for Joanne. At our last commission meeting, we just approved all these sign changes and everything, but at our last commission meeting, we had a particular owner who had installed some signs that were not in compliance, and they told us within 2 weeks those signs would be fixed. I'm wondering if either Joanne or our city manager can tell us, were the signs fixed in the 2 weeks that they said they would be?
Mr. City Manager, would you like me to respond?
Yes, please. I think I know which one you're talking about, but I haven't driven on that street.
These are the signs at the Walgreens
Kosher Kingdom.
Plaza?
Yes.
Kosher
Yes.
Kingdom? Okay. They have applied for a sign variance as they were requested to do. We weren't able to get it on this agenda at the advice of the city attorney. We're not putting any zoning items on, but they have made the requested application.
Thank you so much.
Okay, Commissioner Mizrahi.
Yes, I just wanted to ask, as some of the cities have already done mandatory face covering. I know that there's a shortage of masks, but the CDC is recommending any type of face covering when you go outside. And the city attorney can say, or the city manager, if we can do it mandatory for the residents of Aventura.
I can definitely start with a press release, strongly advising it, and then that will give people some time to secure them if they're, because it's, not everybody, I guess, would have them. And then we could ratchet it up and, after a couple of days or, maybe a week or two.
Yeah, I know, but even if they don't get the mask, you can put a scarf or something. So it would be like mandatory face covering, not the usage of masks. So
Okay.
that way we can have them cover their face.
Commissioner Shelley.
Yeah, I can't agree with you, Gladys. In listening to these doctors and Fauci, et cetera, it's up to 2 feet and it drops down to the ground. And to me, if we're staying within the 6 feet, I could tell you those people that want to do it are doing it, but I would not want to see that made mandatory in our city because there's so little going on in the city as of now. And I look around the island here where people are walking around the circle. And as far as I'm concerned, it's, if you want to make it as a recommendation, I have absolutely no problem with that at all. But making it mandatory, I would think very carefully about that.
Got it.
Anybody else want to weigh in on this? Dr. Marks, no? All right, I'm getting things lighting up on my computer, so it makes this very interesting. I would also like to make a request of the city manager that in this time of emergency, if at all possible, that all of your emergency orders be put out in English and in Spanish. You and I have talked about this before. I think it's really important. We have many people who only, and I'm seeing some nods, that's great, that only speak Spanish, and they get the information second or third hand from a neighbor or a friend. I think we're way behind the times. I know this is going to take time, but that's why I'm saying for right now, just starting with the emergency orders, but then trying to get all of what we do in a bilingual manner to meet the needs of our community.
Great idea.
Yeah.
So are you okay with looking into it, particularly on these emergency orders?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, thank you very much. Anybody else under reports? All right, I also have a question, and I want to let the city manager tell us, because we all read in the Miami Herald what a horrible situation it was when the Dade County Public Schools went on computerized learning. So tell us how our schools fared, please.
I'm happy to report, and I'm sure if they were here, they'd tell you themselves. Principal McKnight and Principal Takala said so far they've been doing very well. Anybody who needed a device received it at ACES. We've been helping the teachers with giving a little extra bandwidth for their phones, so, and their data plans at this time, so there would be smooth operation for classes. We did remind parents, please not to do their children's homework. It doesn't help. We didn't hear anything back, so I'm sure everybody's complying with that. But so far, it's been working very well.
Thank you so much. Any other, Commissioner Shelley?
Just one more regarding Passover. I did want to say, and we've done this for the island here, and it's available. I can send the link. Because there's so many people alone that aren't able to be sharing the Seder with other families or rabbis or synagogues, we put together a service that can be sent out online and can be played at any time by anybody by either YouTube or the website. But we've had over 450 people subscribe to it. It's free. So if anybody wants, I'll send the city manager the link. And then all you have to do is call him. And I think Dr. Marks, we sent it to you, but
Unbelievably wonderful.
We've had so many people that are alone and can't get out, want to have something like that. And it's only a 15-minute service, and it's really done beautifully. And I think it's a beautiful touch for anybody who wants to add it to their home.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I want to say something.
Is there anyone else who wishes to, Commissioner Mizrahi?
Yes, I just want to say that during this time, there has been a report on a lot of the domestic violence and child abuse, and this is not a time to stay silent. There is help. Please call 911. They are willing to help. I know that people are confined in their houses. Aventura is a lot of the condominium, small apartments. So please, please ask for help. And happy holidays to everyone. I know that we're all isolated, but that doesn't mean that we cannot have physical contact, that we cannot be socially connected. So call someone, do WhatsApp calls, Zoom calls, and be connected. And happy holidays to everyone.
Thank you.
Okay, with no one else wishing to make a comment or a report, I'm going to open the meeting for public comment. And I'm going to request that the attorney review with the commission members the purpose of this item.
Thank you, Mayor. As you know, in accordance with the city's rules, at this item, we receive input from the public. However, the commission does not respond and does not engage in discussion. If any follow-up action is necessary based on the public input and comment, the city manager will subsequently follow up with that person or activity.
Okay, thank you. If there's, given this whole meeting, no one has really signed up, city clerk. Let's see if there's anyone that wishes to address the commission.
Okay. Members of the public wishing to comment on this item, please click or touch the ... more option, typically located on the right side of your screen, and select the icon to raise your hand. If you're calling from a phone, please press *9 to raise your hand. I will unmute the microphone for each speaker to individually provide comments until there are no more speakers. When your microphone is unmuted, please state your name and address for the record. You will have 3 minutes to provide comments.
I like
Have a
that
speaker.
comment.
Yeah, Susie wants to speak.
Mayor, I'm not seeing anybody who wants to provide comments at this time.
Okay, then I'm going to ask, prior to asking for a motion for adjournment, I just want to tell everyone to be safe, shelter at home, pass the word. I feel very strongly, I don't know, it's stronger than a recommendation. Everyone should wear a mask. Whatever protection it gives you is better than zero protection, but we're all grown-ups. So please be safe, please shelter at home. We're going to get through it. The last data point that I looked at earlier today, when I said to you before that Aventura has one of the lowest populations with confirmed COVID-19, we had 40 people. Neighboring cities have well over 80, 100, 120. So I'm not sure if there's, none of us know what the numbers mean, but this is from Department of Emergency Management. So their numbers are usually pretty good. And I think what they had when I last looked were 40. Now, many of those 40 have already recovered. They're fine, but they still go in as an active case logged in under our city. With that, then I'm going to say, if there's nothing else, let me ask a motion for adjournment. Made by Commissioner Narodsky, seconded by everybody. Be safe, stay
Wait,
well.
Commissioner?
Yes,
Mayor?
yes, Howard.
Mayor?
Yes, Commissioner Weinberg.
Yeah, I may be wrong, but I got a text. I think there possibly may be people trying to speak. It might be a technical thing. So let's try to see if we give it another minute and see if it's possible. I think that there is 1 or 2 speakers that want to speak.
Madam City Clerk?
No, I'm not seeing any hand raising at this time.
Okay, I don't know anything about
All
that.
right. Then we adjourn.
If it's not working, let's try this again. And make, if the public can't speak, let me ask the attorney. Do we have an issue?
Well, can you hear me, Mayor? As far as I know, the system's working fine, but if a person doesn't follow the instructions that the clerk gave, then it won't work. But the city has tested this system and it works, but it could well be there might be 1 or 2 people that are not complying with the instructions given.
Okay. Then I'm going to say we all voted and the meeting is
Thank you all. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you all, and stay well and healthy.
Be well and
Thank
stay
you.
well.
Happy
Thank you.
holidays, everyone.
Happy holidays. Happy holidays.
Yes.
Thank you all. Goodbye.
Bye.